Peace to the family, peace, love, and light. Welcome back to another episode, another episode of Sunday Service featuring yours truly, Poe Pablo. All right, please get yourselves situated and relaxed. All right, I launched kind of early. We're still waiting for Instagram to tap in. So please give me a second, make yourself comfortable. All right, pat yourselves on the back. I'm saying thank you. Say thank you to yourself. You are in tune for an explosive episode. All right. As we also always do around, you are now rocking with the best. Yes. So please make yourself comfortable. Tell a friend to tell a friend. All right. We're going in today. We're going in. I got to put the glove on for this. Whew. Yes, indeed. Come on now. All right, there we go. There we go. Question join. All right, we'll be in the build. I see 44 in the building all right now. Yeah. We'll be in the building over on Instagram any second now. And there we go. There goes IG. We are live. We are in the building.
Peace, brother. Peace. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing amazing. Peace to the family. Peace, love, and light. We are broadcasting, streaming live on YouTube as well. Shout out to the YouTube family. All right. So we in the building. I want to know how you doing, brother.
I'm doing well, man. I can't complain, but knocking down some barriers, setting up the foundation very, nicely. So
Yes, sir. It has been a minute. I have been caught up in the world. You know what I'm saying? And it's caused us to miss some episodes. And there's a lot going on. So
you already know. We always bring it back food for the pack. You know what I'm saying? You experiences, we bring it back and compile them and we'll set the stage for this.
yes, I have definitely been venturing, collecting, and gathering notes. You know what I'm saying? And we've still been proselytizing. Even on the side of the road, we've been you know sharing the good word everywhere that we go. So today is one of them days that we got a classic one for the family. We got a classic, and it's so necessary and it's so imperative that that we get this thing going. So this episode 59, they killed Jesus. That's the title. Who is they? They can be anyone, right? Let's say they is the haters. You feel me? Or they could be the lies, or they can be Rome, or they can be the small hats, or they could be a combination of all of them. You know what I'm saying? They can be dishonesty, they can be misinformation, they can be disinformation, right? They can be your shadow self, or they can be you. So we're gonna jump in and delve into this, right? Or they can be the US. So today marks the anniversary. I didn't get the calculator out to do the math, but somebody could do it for me. What is 2023 minus 1945? Right? So I'm sure that somebody will do the math on that. But on this day in 1945, they dropped an atomic bomb on Japan, right? They disturbed what's considered to be planetary peace. They killed Jesus. If he is the Prince of Peace, and if this is the dominion that they say that it is, and if God sent us here as his children, right, then man has unleashed a hell on earth that is so unprecedented that one would have to ask before they drop that bomb, did they consult the Pope? 78 years. Did they consult the Pope? If they did not consult the Pope, then you know that that was a violation of all sorts of galactic ordinances, because the universe is held together by the thinnest of threads, right? We are corded together as a universe by the thinnest of threads, and we are entangled as a population, as a people, collectively. There's a morphogenetic grid that connects us that's invisible, that we can't see. We are quantumly entangled by these strings and these threads. So one will have to ask, who gave them permission to drop an entire atomic bomb on a country and disturb the balance of peace in the universe, right? And do something that was so adherent to humanity. How can you drop a bomb on another country and then follow it up and drop another one? And nobody consulted the Pope. Nobody consulted the people who's supposed to be the captains of ordained religion. I mean, the Pope himself, according to them, is the vicegerent on this planet for God himself, right? He is the Godhead of the Godhead. He is the representative. Hence the fact that we can prove to you that this is not a Christian country. And if it is, then the church is complicit with weapons of mass destruction and an annihilation of hundreds of thousands of people, and the release of devastation and destruction on this planet that is unparalleled, that led to an arms race, right? That can very well put this particular planet in an event horizon situation, right? Or what do they call it? Extension level event, ELE, right? So who has the audacity, who has given themselves permission to play God to that degree where they can jump over the entire Pope, the Vatican, and all other bodies of religion to make such a determination that dropping an atomic bomb on another country is something that would be suffice on this particular plane of existence that's governed by God, right? So that is an affront, okay? That would be a direct affront to God himself, to drop an atomic bomb on his children, to unleash atomic power on this planet, and then to spawn an arms race by the same people who say that they represent the Prince of Peace. So I just want to give a little background, right, to some of the decision making that went into a day like this, because this day is profound. It's profound. This day is profound, and this day signals, right? It speeds up to this time, not only because the movie Oppenheimer came out, but also because of the disclosure program that's taking place right now. And if we have had any interaction or any interface with entities from other places and other dimensions, right, it was specifically because of that bomb that was dropped. Immediately after the bomb is dropped is when they start signaling the presence and the evidence of extraterrestrials, like the next day, and it's never stopped, right? So there was an egregious act that was committed that rippled through the universe, okay, and called upon a necessary intervention. We have not risen out of the shadow of that event that took place August 6, 1945, because now we live in a technosphere or technocracy or a military age, right? So the military industrial complex, the seizure of this country by the military and the military industrial complex, who have a multi-trillion dollar black ops operation, operating in real time. You feel me? That has never stopped since 1945. We went into the age of the military age, and we have not been out of the military age ever since. Let me ask you guys, do you think that Joe Biden runs the country? You think that the president is presiding over this country and the president is not being told by a military junta what to do at all times?
Think about it. Remember, even in school when I was
You breaking up.
stuff. A heightened state of something. We always been in that zone, the war is going, military zone all the time. Because I was younger, always been a threat of war. Ever since I can remember.
Right. We always used to do the practices in class of getting under the table in case a bomb went off. Like that's just supposed to save you. Like it's a tornado or something. Like, no, nigga, that's a nuke. Like they shooting missiles over here. You seen the video? They'll show you in class the video. The shit obliterates the whole house like it's the little three pigs. And then you're supposed to be under the table. I'm like, nigga, you got a bathtub or something? Because the table ain't gonna do nothing. Anyway, so yes, there was a president named Harry Truman, right? 33rd degree, or the 33rd president, who also happened to be a 33rd degree. Allegedly, he made the decision, and he said it was a sole decision that he made, and he did not consult anybody. The only person that he consulted was his Secretary of State, which is a man named James Byrd, right? Now, the story of James Byrd, if anybody wants to Google James Byrd, right? James Byrd was a self-avowed racist, a Dixie Democrat from South Carolina, of all places. I just came from South Carolina yesterday, and I shed a tear, and I'm still internally crying inside from what I witnessed and just the energy of what I picked up on, So James Byrd, okay, became the Secretary of State. He was supposed to actually run for the president. He got beat at the Democratic National Convention in 1944 by Truman. Truman picked him up as a Secretary of State. James Byrd famously said the only thing that they hate worse than niggers is fucking kikes, yellow niggers, right? This person was the one responsible in a one-on-one session with the 33rd president of this country, okay? James Byrd, senator, because now they're trying to conflate the name of James Byrd with the brother who got killed in Texas and dragged, ironically, all right? But he was named after a wild racist, Senator Byrd, okay? Now, this got everything to do with the class today. This is all God's children, okay? All right, so James Byrd joined the KKK in the 1940s, right? And this is an apology that he had to make. He said, seconds before being asked about race relations, Byrd mentioned his membership in the Ku Klux Klan in the 1940s. He was reacting to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who recently admitted fathering a child with an employee of his nonprofit organization. He made a bad mistake, Bird said. We all make mistakes. I made a mistake when I was a young man. It's always been an albatross around my neck joining the Ku Klux Klan, right? I apologize for the characterization I used on this program. The phrase dates back to my boyhood and had no place in today's society. As for my language, I had no intention of casting a person on casting aspersions on anyone of another race, right? And he said, I think we try to have goodwill. My old mom told me, Robert, you can't go to heaven if you hate anybody. We practice that. There are white niggers. I've seen a lot of white niggers in my time. I'm going to use that word, right? So this is not even, nearly the evidence that's available on this individual. Okay. Again, this individual was responsible, right? Partially responsible with making the decision to drop this bomb. You know what I'm saying? And he was a self-avowed racist. And once again, giving these men allegedly the power to make these decisions in your name as the president, the presiding authority over this particular country. Now we know that Truman was answering to other forces. We know that he was answering in the CFR. We know he was answering to his fraternal organizations and his handlers. But just the fact that you would think that a president would have that much power, that he could preside over the fate of an entire country and an entire planet and override the sanction of the Pope even, right? Now, I don't agree with none of that shit, but I'm just saying the way that the systems of checks and balances and the way that the system of power is even allegedly set up in this country, they didn't even obey that, right? They jumped over that and decided that they was going to push the button to drop the bomb made by Oppenheimer, which was an atomic bomb. Now I'm going to show you how this all coincides with scripture, right? And there are no chance encounters with time. So welcome to Lionsgate Mineral Ministries presents Sunday Services, episode 59. They killed Jesus. I am your gracious hope, Pope Pablo. I'm joined by my brother Angel General. Okay, and here at Sunday Service, we are non-denominational, mostly conversational, and sometimes confrontational, right? And the way that we decipher the word is that we coincide the word, chapter, verse with the Gregorian calendar. So today is August 6th. So we'll be reading from the word in the book 8:6, right? 8th books or 8th chapter, 6th verse, right? Coinciding with the majority of all of the books in the Bible. So we'll get started graciously. Okay. We all know the first bomb was called Little Boy, and it was dropped on August 6th out of a plane called Enola Gay by a pilot named Paul Tibbets Jr. Okay. And this was the sparking of the beginning of the the official military age on this planet, right? The beginning of the arms race. So right away we go to Genesis. Genesis 8:6 reads, Noah sends a raven and a dove, right? So there's a dichotomy, a raven and a dove. 8:6. After 40 days, Noah opened the window he made in the ark and he sent out a raven. It kept flying back and forth until the waters had dried up from the earth. So right away, out the gate, right, we see a correlation because there's a contrast. There's a raven and a dove. We know what the dove represents. The dove represents peace. What you think a raven represents? I'll wait. We can close the chapter just by going from the beginning to the end, from the rooter to the tutor. We'll start there. We're going to start at Genesis and we're going to end at Revelations, but I'm going to jump you through the hoop right away and take you from Genesis to Revelations in one breath and just qualify today's entire demonstration to show you without a shadow of a doubt, right, that when you align scripture to this Gregorian calendar, then it will reveal itself precisely. So let's go into some interpretation real quick, right? Let's get some reference. What is the spiritual meaning of raven, right? Let's get the esoteric meaning of what the raven means based on symbolism. Because we just opened up in Genesis with Noah saying that they released the raven, right? To many, ravens symbolize death or bad fortune to come, right? But to others, they symbolize rebirth and starting anew, serving as a positive sign. So there's both things that are being said about this particular animal or this bird, right? But make no mistake, we know without a shadow of a doubt what a dove represents, right? So he's sending in this narrative or this story with Noah, he sends out the raven allegedly to look for landfall, right? So the ark or the boat can get off the waters after the 40 days and actually see if there was dry land. So this is what they're saying that they used the raven for, and the raven was flying back and forth, and it did not find the dry land, but they sent the dove, and the dove did, right? So the dove established that there was somewhere for them to dock. That was a peaceful situation. Okay. But in the case with the raven did not stabilize anything. The raven was showing that there was a destabilization. The raven was showing that the waves and the current had not yet settled enough for them to be stability. The raven was showing that there was signs of discomfort ahead. In this particular time, in this particular case, on this particular day, right, the raven symbolized death, right? And there was death from above. Now, even though that they call Satan, Lucifer, the prince of the air, right? Hence they say that he governs over music. The firmament or the air is something that has not normally been associated as connected with the devil or hell, right? Anything that comes from the air or comes from heaven denotes a relationship or a connection to the Most High, right? It's a euphemism almost for the Most High and for heaven because it represents the layers above. So the bad guys can't get up there, allegedly, okay? The bad guys can't get up there. You feel me? So we'll go right to, let's go right to Revelations first, then we'll work our way backwards, right? So this is Revelations. We already explained what Genesis was hitting for and what it represented with the raven. So Revelations 8:6 reads, the first four trumpets, right? So we already know the Trump is going to get another indictment, right? It'll happen this week. First four trumpets. They're going to hit him in Georgia, right? Fanny going to hit him with the fourth one, right? Revelations 8:6 is the first four trumpets. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to earth. And there were peals of thunder and rumblings and flashes of lightning and an earthquake. And the seven angels with the seven trumpets prepared to sound them. Then the first angel sounded his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were hurled down upon the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, along with a third of the trees and the green grass. Right? Now, if that does not sound like an account from a bomb coming from above that decimates the plane of existence below, or the planet, God damn it, then I don't know what else does. Is it a little bit exaggerated in terms of the length of coverage that the bomb resonates and demonstrates? Yes, it is. But this was the first time that they were utilizing the television to publicize this shit. So the bomb might have went off in Japan, but you seen the shit in your living room, and you have not lived it down ever since. And it put the fear not only in your heart, but in everybody's heart. There was a competitor of the U.S. that the U.S. emerged as a superpower the day after this bomb dropped. So everybody felt it. It was felt and seen across the world, right? In the seven trumpets, you have to understand, like I said, when you understand string theory and symmetry, supersymmetry, and quantum physics, they say that we are connected by strings. And those strings can be strung like a guitar. So it's a vibratory thing. Can you put the mute on your the phone? I'm hearing back, what you call it, feedback, right? And that's a perfect example because I'm speaking, and then the vibration of whatever's being said is strumming a frequency where you're hearing feedback. So when you hear them say the seven angels blew the seven trumpets, there's such a thing called the clan of angels, and the clan of angels, based on music, right, which is in the seven steps of masonry. The seven steps of masonry is called liberal arts. And at the highest degree of masonry is astronomy, but the second highest is music. Why? Because you can perform masonry or magic by manipulating magnetic fields. And how do you do that as a musician? How do you do that as a musician? By playing instruments to change the frequency. The trumpet in particular, and the harp, right, are instruments, string instruments that you can fluctuate and manipulate, right? What's considered to be the morphogenetic field that surrounds us, because that morphogenetic field is connected by strings. It's connected by vibration. You feel me? So the blowing of the trumpets is really them changing, okay, or strumming the strings that thread and connect us as reality. They're changing the scope of reality when they're blowing the trumpets, right? But like I said, they said the angels grabbed the fire from the altar, right? Here's the fact that they said, what, even in the movie, because I saw the movie Oppenheimer, they made mad references to Prometheus, right? And Prometheus in the mythology speaks about that when man got fire, he played God. Yes, through the art of cymatics, we understand the resonance and the frequency. Changing the resonant frequency changes what? The actual physical manifestation of a thing, because you're changing the vibratory frequency of it. That is what the trumpets, the angels blowing the trumpets is doing or signifying. The fact that they numbered it 7 is symbolism within itself, because now they're speaking about the 7 candlesticks, right? So this strumming of a frequency, you know what I'm saying, from these particular 7 angels, again, we're just establishing a clear correlation between these particular dates and these chapters and these verses. So the Gregorian calendar day of 8/6, right, which is today, which in history 79 years ago today is when they dropped this bomb on these people, and they changed history, they changed reality, right? They created an arms race, but it also was an affront to the creator. How can you drop a bomb on his creation without even consulting with his vicegerent, which would be the Pope? And if they did consult the Pope, then the Pope is complicit with the creation of weapons of mass destruction. Okay, so we'll read it one more time. We went to Genesis and established Genesis was about them sending out the raven, who is the bird of death, on 8/6. Okay, and it's also an airborne animal. It's a bird. I just explained to you that Senator Byrd, James Byrd, was responsible for signing off with Harry Truman, both of them KKK, but specifically Byrd, his Secretary of State. He's the one responsible with telling Truman to drop the bomb, right? So that's how far, that's how deep racism can go. There's someone who looks at you as subhuman because James Byrd said the only thing worse than a Negro or nigga is a fucking kike, right? Or he said a Jap, right? They said a yellow nigga. So that level of racism, right? The darkness of a person's heart can lead to a decision and a determination being made that can alter the face of history forever. So you can't tell me that one person can't make a difference. Look at Oppenheimer. Look at Truman. Look at James Byrd, right? And then we get to Revelations, like I said. Revelation is talking about the first four trumpets, right? Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to earth. And there were peals of thunder and rumblings and flashes of lightning and earthquake. Is that not a bomb? Is that not a bomb of atomic size, right? Was there not rumbling? Was there not earthquake? Then the first angel sounded the trumpet. No, let's go back. And the seven angels with the seven trumpets prepared to sound them. Then the first angel sounded his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were hurled down upon the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, along with a third of the trees and all the green grass. That's one hell of a destruction. That's one hell of a destruction. You know? So man, with his malfeasance, right, has created a condition and a situation in the cosmos where there had to be intervention by other entities that comes to this dimension and say, what are you guys doing? And who gave you permission to do this? Did you consult with anybody? Do you know that you are disturbing the delicate balance of the cosmos, right? Which are connected by strings and threads. The blowing of the trumpets by the angels is allegory, right? For how you string and strum a string that connects us along this morphogenetic grid that we all belong to, right? So the disturbance of dropping a bomb can disrupt and disturb the peaceful balance of the cosmos. It ripples, it has ramifications throughout the universe that we don't understand, right? That we don't understand. We are uncivilized as a civilization. We cannot step as a type 1 civilization into this galaxy. And that's making reference to something called the Kardashev scale that explains, how you got to be civilized in order to be accepted amongst the family of nations, the galactic family of nations. We are uncivilized people dropping bombs on one another. So let's go to Exodus. This is the second plague, frogs. We also know frogs are also a symbolism of magnetic fields, right? Hence the fact that, we saw the characterization of an individual named Frog in the movie Who Cloned Tyrone. Shout out to KT and his recent breakdowns of that film, right? So we know what the frog represents, right? So in this particular Bible, in his book, in Exodus, and the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers and canals and ponds and cause the frogs to come up into the land of Egypt. So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and they covered the land of Egypt. So this was making reference to the plague, the second plague. The first plague, I believe, was blood. Second plague is the frogs. But the magicians did the same thing by their magic arts, and they also brought frogs upon the land of Egypt. So what did I just explain? The definition of magic is the manipulation of magnetic fields, right? Hence the fact that they are utilizing a frog to symbolize it, because a frog represents what? Some entity that manipulates magnetic fields. And it also is an entity that goes from a tadpole to a whole frog, growing arms and limbs and things of that nature. One of the first animals to be used to clone, right? So a land being overridden by frogs, you know what I'm saying? They're changing the morphogenetic resonance of that particular land or the magnetic field of that land. Okay. Shout out to, everybody who has indulged in Bufu and seen the spiritual import of what the frog represents and has to offer. The Bufu frog in particular. Shout out to you. But we're gonna go. Let's There's a correspondence or cross reference to this we're gonna hit on, and that is Revelation 16:13, right? And I saw three unclean spirits that looked like frogs coming out of the mouths of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. So we are also seeing that they correlate frogs to unclean spirits. I thought that was the pig, but they're putting it on the frog and shit. I never had frog, but they told me it tastes like chicken. Right? Shout out to my Bayou family. I had rabbit. That's another conversation. Leviticus 8:6. Moses consecrates Aaron and his son. And also, I just want to flip back and show you, again, the game that God was playing by pumping up his people is to give them magic. So how can he be against magic if he's fighting magic with magic and attempting to wow the people by magic? Throwing the staff to the ground and making it turn into a serpent was a magic trick. Splitting the Red Sea is a magic trick. Turning water to wine is a magic trick. Right? How did these people get access of the coveted faculty of magic before God endowed it, upon them? How did these other individuals praying to other gods receive the reward of magic? That's a whole nother conversation. Leviticus 8:6. Moses consecrates Aaron and his sons. And Moses said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded to be done. Then Moses presented Aaron and his sons and washed them with water. He put the tunic on Aaron, tied the sash around him, clothed him with the robe, and put the ephod on him. He tied the woven band of the ephod around him and fastened it to him. So he was putting that shit on, right? He was putting that linen on him. It's like, I'm dressing you up. I'm getting you ready. And what does he consecrate them to be? He consecrates them to be the priesthood, right? The Levites, Aaron and his sons. But his sons end up getting killed because they prepared the offering for quote unquote God the wrong way. Just one mistake, and they got taken off the plate. Let's go to Numbers 8:6. Cleansing of the Levites, right? So we keep the narrative going. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites from among the Israelites and make them ceremonially clean. This is what you must do to cleanse them. Sprinkle them with water of purification, have them shave their whole bodies and wash their clothes, and so purify them. It's like, damn, don't we do that every day? This was special back then. Remember, they was living in the desert. No disrespect to them. You know what I'm saying? But, the power of water as a purifying agent, you know what I'm saying, is not to be underlooking or undermined. We started this narrative talking about Genesis, right? In the 40 days that they were on the waters, we were speaking about them dropping a bomb through the air. Air is just another component of water. We all live in a fishbowl, right? And we're speaking about the fact that we do live in a fishbowl, and people is over here dropping bombs and shit, thinking it don't affect everyone else in the fishbowl. Okay? Cleansing the Levites, right? Shave their whole bodies and wash their clothes. Regular shit. Deuteronomy 8:6. Remember the Lord your God. So know in your hearts that just as man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Therefore, you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God, walking in his ways and fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks and fountains and springs that flows through the valleys and the hills. I agree. I want to follow the commandments of my creator and be a good servant to those commandments, right? But man-made law keeps interfering. So which one should I obey? And which one should I say? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't take precedent in my life. I'm putting God's laws first because I cannot serve two masters. So all of these codes and these ordinances and these 100 million thousand things that you're saying are quote unquote law, I can't hear that because that doesn't coincide with my commandments and my training and the contract and the covenant that I already signed before I got here. I'm indebted to that first, right? That holds precedence. So you got to find out what that contract and that covenant with is if you want to establish some sort of cover and stop, falling prey to the ways of man. Joshua 8:6. This verse keeps coming up for some reason. I don't know. It keeps looping, but it's called the conquest of AI. And I thought we read this a few times, but it keeps popping up. The conquest of AI. It's spelled AI. I'm sure that they pronounce it different, but it's spelled AI. Then I and the troops with me will advance on the city. When they come out against us, as they did the first time, we will flee from them. They will pursue us until we have drawn them away from the city, for they will say the Israelites are running away from us as they did before. So as we flee from them, you are to rise from the ambush and seize the city, for the Lord your God will deliver it into your hands. So they're speaking about finessing them, right? Using a ruse to drag them into one direction, and then the other flank is supposed to raid the city and seize it. You know what I'm saying? The 52 fake out. So that's how they had to conquest AI. They had to fake them out. You know what I'm saying? Can you fake out AI? Do you think you can fake out AI? It's going to come down to that. You having to answer that question. Because at some point, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to fake out AI. Judges 8:6. Gideon defeats Zebah and Zalmunna. So Gideon said to the men of Succoth, please give my troops some bread, for they are exhausted, and I am still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian. But the leaders of Succoth asked, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna already in your possession, that we should give bread to your army? Very well, Gideon replied. When the Lord has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will tear your flesh with the thorns and the briars of the wilderness. So they fronted on them. You know what I'm saying? They like, nigga, a bird in the hand is worth more than a bush. They like, we feeding you and your troops, but you haven't fulfilled the contract, the obligations. You don't got the ops. You ain't spent a block yet. You telling me they upstairs, eating at Big Mama's house. It ain't go down yet. So we ain't breaking no bread until we see some bodies drop. And they like, once we pop their top, we're going to spin the block and run down on you next. So that's what they was talking about. 1 Samuel 8:6. Israel demands a king. Look, they said, you are old and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint a king to judge us like all the other nations. But when they said, give us a king to judge us, their demand was displeasing in the sight of Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, listen to the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for it is not you that they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. Right? Don't be so rash in your rush to judgments, right? Be a master listener. Hear what's being said and hear what's not being said. Understand the nuances of somebody's conversation. It might not always be them deflecting you. They might deflect your religion or your godhood or your godhead, should I say, right? Or the things that it represents. It's not always personal. You know what I'm saying? It's not always personal. You got to look behind the thing to get the fullness of the download, of the feedback. Right? Let's go to 2 Samuel 8:6. David triumphs. When the Arameans of Damascus came to help King Hadazer of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 men. Then he placed garrisons in Aram of Damascus, and the Arameans became subject to David and brought him tribute. So the Lord made David victorious wherever he went. And David took the gold shields that belonged to the officers of Hadadezer and brought them to Jerusalem. Right? So This is the continuing narrative and the concept of people who feel that they are the children of the Most High, or their country has been endowed by the powers bestowed upon them by God, right? God bless this country is the rally cry. It's the war rally cry for this country, but there's a separation of church and state. So what God are you talking about? God bless this country. God bless America. Kill them all and let God sort them out is the ethos of the military of this country. So this military moves as if they are endowed with the blessings and the favor, right, of God himself. And they wage war around the world, okay? And they say, okay, we are in favor of God. It's the fact that George Bush started a crusades against Islam because of 9/11. Who do you think he was riding for and on whose side, right? He was saying what? God is imbuing him as the president, as the king of Israel, to have the power necessary to go up against an entire religion. Did he consult the Pope? Once again, why even have a Pope if he has no political power, no prowess, no pull, no say? Who are these people and why are they making such lone decisions for the rest of the world, right? Does the presidency give you that much power? Let's go to 1 Kings. And if you notice the theme of the tone, if you will, of these chapters and these verses on 8:6, they all deal with war. They all deal with war. And they all deal with, compromising positions that one finds themselves in going to war. You got to feed your troops. This is what they said about the reason that they dropped the bomb in Japan, because they had to go, because remember, Japan was a kingdom back then, right? They had an emperor. And in order, they said Germany had already surrendered, but Japan was still in the war fighting. And they were fierce fighters. And because Japan has particular culture, traditions, and ethos, they don't surrender. So they would have had to send troops into Japan to beat them on the ground, hand to hand, damn near, right? And Truman said, "What? It's going to cause too much loss of life. The infantry, we got to feed these soldiers, right? It's going to cost us too much. The cost outweighs the risk factor. We're just going to drop a bomb." Right? Let's go to 1 Kings 8:6. The ark enters the temple. Therefore, before the ark, King Solomon and the whole congregation of Israel who had assembled with him sacrificed so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered. Right? Animal sacrifice was very prevalent in the Old Testament amongst those who call themselves Jews. We know that it's still prevalent today amongst those who call themselves Jews. The European versions, at least, I don't know if the Israelites are still doing animal sacrifice, right? We don't get to see their rites, customs, and traditions. Then the priest brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord to his place in the inner sanctuary of the temple, the most holy place, beneath the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark and overshadowed the ark in its poles. Right? They slaughtered so much sheep and oxen that the heads of the animals could not be counted. That's hell of a lot of slaughter. Right? That's hell of a lot of slaughter. But then they want to be judgmental because YSL was slaughtering some goats. Huh? The caucasity, judge ye not, because you never know what your big homies is into. Feel me? Right? This was for God. This is the Ark of the Covenant. This is the Holy of the Holies. In order to consecrate it, they had to spill blood because the God of the Bible, right, feasts on blood. Anybody who has been to this show, this program, this class, we don't got to go through the hundreds of pieces of evidence that we've already put on record, right? This is not even up for conversation at this point. Y'all know that the God of the Old Testament was all into animal sacrifice. They call it sin offerings. They call it guilt offerings. They call it pleasing offerings. They, you know, even when you wasn't sinning, you still had to make an offer, an animal sacrifice. Yes, blood is the spiritual currency. Hence the fact that you still read or drink, right, and eat wine and crackers at the communion. What you think the wine represents? Huh? Okay, 2 Kings 8:6. Shunammite's land restored. And we'll say it, and we'll say it again. That the Old Testament is animal sacrifice, and the New Testament is human sacrifice. And hopefully you understand the difference between the two. But hopefully that can go over your head, right? And who was the human sacrifice or the Ebo in the New Testament? Jesus Christ himself. Right? The biggest Ebo, the biggest offering, the biggest sacrifice, okay, is Jesus. It's the DNA of God. He got like his blood is like the Henrietta Lacks cells. Shit is immortal, right? And they keep replicating themselves. He got to produce all of this blood for the blood of Jesus to be on the people, for them to be absolved from sin. The Lamb himself, yes. What you think happens to lambs in ceremonies? It's ugly. The Shunammite's land restored. And Gehazi was telling the king how Elisha had brought the dead back to life, right? That Jesus didn't do that alone. That wasn't a soul magic trick that was reserved to Jesus. Elisha did it. Just then, the woman whose son Elisha had revived came to appeal to the king for her house and her land. So Gehazi said, "My lord the king, this is the woman, and this is the son Elisha restored to life." When the king asked the woman, she confirmed it. So the king appointed for her an officer, saying, "Restore all that was hers, along with all of the proceeds of the field from the day that she left the country until now." Right? So he restored her, he gave her back pay. He reinserted her back into society. You know what I'm saying? Beautiful thing. 2 Chronicles 8:6. Solomon's additional accomplishments. He rebuilt Upper and Lower Beth Haran as fortified cities with walls, gates, and bars, as well as Baal-Oth, all the store cities that belonged to Solomon, and all of the cities for his chariots and horses, whatever he desired to build in Jerusalem, Lebanon, and throughout the land of his dominions. As for all of the people who remained of the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and those were the people who were not Israelites, right? Who at one point or another in this book, you can see that God curried favor with these different nations when he wanted to spank Israel, right? He got in bed with the ops. He did. And then when he was through with them, then he would go back to the Israelites when they was fucking with him, right? Somebody's gonna be like, he cursed. When you know, when they was bumping with God again, and they was back in his bosom, and they was buddy, and then he would empower the Israelites to defeat the same people that he empowered to defeat them. They got one of them relationships that you shouldn't get involved with. You know what I'm saying? An abusive relationship between a husband and wife that you shouldn't. You the brother and shit. Mind your business, nigga. They're gonna throw you under the bus when they get good again. That would be happening all through the Bible. Let's go to Nehemiah. Nehemiah 8:6. Right? Ezra reads the law. So Ezra opens the book in full view of all of the people, since he was standing above them all. And as he opened it, all of the people stood up. Then Ezra blessed the Lord, the great God, and with their hands uplifted, all the people said, Amen, Amen. Then the Lord bowed down and worshiped. Then they bowed down and worshiped the Lord with their faces to the ground. Okay. So, yeah. Esther 8:6, right? Esther's appeal for the Jews. If it pleases the king, she said, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the matter seems proper to the king, and I am pleasing in his sight, may an order be written to revoke the letters that the scheming Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, wrote to destroy the Jews in all of the king's provinces. For how could I bear to see the disaster that will befall my people? How could I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? So Esther, from what I understand, as the story goes, she was a servant initially, right? And I'm embarrassed that I don't remember the king's name. I don't think it was Mordecai, right? But or Obadiah. I don't think it was one of them. It was another king, and she became the concubine and ended up becoming the main whiz, right? And she used her powers, her prowess, her persuasion, right, in order to save her people, right? In order to save her people, right? She has a box that keeps giving gifts, right? She has one of those boxes that she was able to curry favor, right, and appeal to this man to spare her people. Some Cleopatra shit, right? Shout out to Esther and all of the Eastern stars. Okay. Job 8:6. Job should repent. Right? Yeah, shout out to the Moabites. Yes. Ruth and Esther. But y'all help me. Who was Esther booed up with? Who was her boo? All right. But if you would earnestly seek God and ask the Almighty for mercy, if you are pure and upright, even now he will rouse himself on your behalf and restore your righteous estate. Though your beginnings were modest, your latter days will flourish. So this is what they're telling Job after he's gone through all of the tests, all of the adversary, right? Him castigating and chastising the name of God. God still had mercy on him, right? If he would so ask for mercy from God, right? It all sounds contractual to me. They was beating this nigga to a pulp. You feel me? Making him tap out. He was a glutton for pain. You feel me? But he's a wonderful witness. Because we've all been there. I've been at my lowest and I put a prayer up and it's been answered. You know what I'm saying? So I do bear witness. This is not a game that we play. It's an honest testimony. You feel me? That there is a creative force. There's a powerful creative force that exists in this universe. And you are an extension of it. It is not an extension of you, right? And it runs plays and it intercedes on behalf of its children. Amen. Amen. Let's go to Psalms 8:6. How majestic is your name? Your name. Your name, whatever your name is. You made him a little lower than the angels. You crowned him with glory and honor. You made him ruler of the works of your hands. You have placed everything under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and even the beasts of the field. This is you that they're speaking about, man, right? How majestic is your name. You are a little bit lowly under the angels, but you got free will, power, and determination. You can make it happen. You can speak things into existence. You have willpower. You can tap into your Leo energy, right? And make shit happen. You can move these metrics. You can move mountains, right? You have been endowed by the creator himself to be versions of the creator on this planet. Hence the fact that they said what? They said, you have made him ruler of the works of your hands, right? A creator uses his hands to create. We are made in the image of the creator because we have hands, right? To be co-creators with hands. This is what separates you from animals, that you have a thumb, this fully functional thumb. This one evolutionary process of it separates you from the animal kingdom. And the fact that you can stand perpendicular to the ground, to be upright, right? So you can receive. And I think the KT said it in the interview yesterday. Your mitochondria is in your heart and your brain. So you can do something with the information that you receive, as opposed to the mitochondria being in your muscles and you just being a brute and being strong like a gorilla. That's not who you are, right? That's what makes you special, is the matter that you receive from your mother matrilineally through her mitochondria. That's what activates your genius and your intellect. It makes you more than just a beast of burden or the beast of the field. You are man, right? How majestic is your name? Don't take yourself for granted. Don't undermine the value of who you are. We're here speaking about the decision of a man, right? In this case, Harry Truman, or even Oppenheimer for that matter, caused a disturbance and a disruption in the galaxy and the cosmos. A man did that. So I don't want to be here all the time talking about, how man has overstepped the boundaries and the faculties that he's been afforded. We want to talk about some of the positive things that one man has done to change this planet. You dig what I'm saying? So what one man can make a difference. You are that powerful, man and woman, because man is just a euphemism for woman and vice versa. Oh no, I can't say vice versa. My bad. Because womb man is she's man because man is mine and the womb is mine. So a woman is man times two. I don't know if I was supposed to say that either, but Proverbs 8:6, the excellence of wisdom. O simple ones, learn to be shrewd. O fools, gain understanding. Listen, for I speak of noble things, and the opening of my lips will reveal right. For my mouth will speak the truth, and wickedness is detestable to my lips. That's right there. That's what I was going through a second ago. Right? My lips was just, my heart was full, and my lips had to obey my heart. I wasn't even thinking about what I was saying, but it felt right. Okay? That's the excellence of wisdom. You feel me? Listen, for I speak of noble things, and the opening of my lips will reveal right. For my mouth will speak the truth, and wickedness is detestable to my lips. Now, again, these are the covenants and the creeds. They showed you last week or a few weeks ago that you could write your own Bible, right? China did it, and they wrote their own Quran. I'm not gonna go there with it. You know what I'm saying? But you could write your own Bible. There's certain codes and creeds that we need, right? Give us the meat, throw away the bones. Pause. There's certain things that we need to strip the book down and just focus on, certain verses, certain chapters, things that we need to repeat amongst ourselves to reinstall the integrity factor, to reinstall the nobleness that comes out our mouth when we open our lips. These are the things we need to focus on, right? This one is one that I definitely is going to make. This is going to make the book. Proverbs 8:6. We need to repeat this to ourselves before we even come outside, right? This is a beautiful passage in this book that we should be repeating to ourselves. Listen, for I speak of noble things, right? Ecclesiastes 8:6, obey the king. Right, we in Leo season. And there's been a lot of king talk today too. Shout out to King Solomon and King David. They keep popping up. Whoever keeps his command will come to no harm. And a wise heart knows the right time and procedure. For there is a right time and procedure to every purpose, though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him. Since no one knows what will happen, who can tell him what is to come? Right? So the good stuff, we always waiting on it. It comes around ever so often. But if you miserable, that shit is every day, right? You got to wear it. And then you looking for a reprieve, not knowing when it will come. So same way that you're looking for that reprieve that comes every once and again, this is the way that they're saying, right? That the blessings come around. But which one would you rather have? All right, let's go. There's a cross reference for this. Ecclesiastes 3:17. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, since there is a time for every activity and every deed. Right? So there's a time that's been allotted for all things. And in due time, right, all things shall pass. So if you're stressed out, right, it ain't gonna be stressful forever. Fret not. These things too shall pass. Right? You gotta hold on, you gotta hold it down. You gotta remain vigilant and vigilant. You know what I'm saying? These things too shall pass. Songs 8:6, longing for her beloved. Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? I roused you under the apple tree. There your mother conceived you. There she traveled and brought you forth. Set me as a seal over your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is as strong as death. Its jealousy as unrelenting as Sheol. Its sparks are fiery flames, the fiercest blaze of all. Mighty waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all of the wealth of his house for love, his offer would be utterly scorned. That's a powerful statement, right? She was longing for her beloved, and she thought she seen this nigga Jack coming down a hill with someone other than Jill. And she was like, nigga, fuck is going on, right? She just started flipping her wig. So, and she started saying the most. She was calling upon the, let's read it again. Longing for her beloved, right? Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? She was like, what? I roused you under the apple tree. There your mother conceived you. There she traveled and brought you forth. Set me as a seal over your heart, as a seal upon your arm. She like, nigga, tap me on your arm if it's like that, right? Or give me the boo tattoo over the heart. For love is as strong as death, is jealousy as unrelenting as Sheol. Sheol is hell. Its sparks are fiery flames, the fiercest blaze of all. Mighty waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all of the wealth of his house for love, his offer would be utterly scorned, right? So you can't even buy it, right? You can't compensate for it. Nothing can account for it. It is above all things. She's speaking strong. Isaiah 8:6. Assyrian invasion prophesies. As the Lord spoke to me further, because this people has rejected the gently flowing powers of Sheloah and rejoiced in Rezin and the sons of Ramallah, the Lord will surely bring against them the mighty floodwaters of the Euphrates. The king of Assyria and all of his pomp, it will overflow its channels and overrun its banks. So we can see that that's also a divisive tactic that God has continuously used against the enemies of said nations. It's not the devil doing this in the Bible, y'all. It's God, right? Who flooded the world 3 times? Was it the devil? Noah had to build an ark, but who washed them niggas up? Because not until Noah did God say he got his human experiment right, because the only people to follow his commandments initially at that time was Noah. He said humanity had failed 3 times prior to Noah. Who you think it is washing people up and pressing reset? Because their script went, they had an error in the code. Right? So if this is a simulation, who's the coder? There's a bug in the script. So you got to scrap the script and start it over until you get the bugs removed and the script flows smooth. Then they got the biggest bug of them all, or the virus, and it's called Satan. Right? That's the malware running in this simulation that God can't seem as a programmer to extract, or the worm that he can't remove from the code. But who else you think is doing death and destruction on this plane of existence? Because it's not the devil in the Bible. It's not. Jeremiah 8:6, right? He giveth and he taketh away. That's the big homie. Not the devil. Judas, sin and punishment. Why then have these people turned away? Why does Jerusalem always turn away? They cling to deceit. They refuse to return. So he cannot even convince his own children, his own nation, his own people to follow him, to follow his word, to keep his word pure. Right? He was a gang leader with no gang. He was a big homie with no little homies. Right? He was the big homie with no set. I'm just putting it in modern day parlance so we can catch it, right? He was a pastor with no congregation in a mega church. Just seats 40,000. And it was like 2 niggas in it. I'm sorry. Judas, sin and punishment. Why then have these people turned away? Why does Jerusalem always turn away? They cling to deceit. They refuse to return. I have listened and heard. They do not speak what is right. No one repents of his wickedness, asking, what have I done? Everyone has pursued his own course like a horse charging into battle. Even the stork in the sky knows her appointed seasons. The turtle dove, the swift, and the thrust keep their time of migration. But my people do not know the requirements of the Lord. Are we not here today? Are they not speaking about our people, right? Who they said are stiff-necked and hard-headed. No matter what we are shown, no matter what we have been through, we still turn our face away from our Creator. Who's he speaking about? Does this not sound like some people that you know? Okay. Shout out to the tribe of Judah. I mean, we are in season. You know what I'm saying? Division of idolatry in the temple. Son of man, he said to me, now lift up your eyes to the north. So I lifted up my eyes to the north, and the entrance north of the altar gate, I saw this idol of jealousy. Son of man, he said to me, do you see what they are doing? The great abominations that the house of Israel is committing to drive me far from my sanctuary? Yet you will see even greater abominations. Then he brought me to the entrance of the court, and I looked and I saw a hole in the wall. And then them niggas started serving crack outside of the hole in the wall. And it was a bigger abomination. I'm sorry. It's just the context of, of the word in the scripture that I'm like, this stuff is still moving, and this rat is still moving, y'all. It's still moving. Daniel 6. Daniel's vision of the ram and the goat. Because I used to know young men that used to sell crack out of a hole in the wall at night. I couldn't get outside at night, so I could never be a crack dealer because I had to be at home at a particular time. So crack was out for me, right? Anyway, Daniel 8:6. And then I used to meet them in the morning and we link up because we go to breakfast together and they have a hole in the. I'm like, y'all niggas selling crack out there? It's like, yeah, we sell crack out. We pass the can and shit. Anyway, shit crazy, man. Then, as I was contemplating all this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between his eyes came out of the west, crossing the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground. He came toward the two-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and rushed at him with furious power. I saw him approach the ram in a rage against him, and he struck the ram and shattered his two horns. The ram was powerless to stand against him, and the goat threw him to the ground and trampled him, and no one could deliver the ram from his power. Okay? That is a powerful vision that Daniel had, right? And it's allegorical, of course. Feel me? And I can't quite explain this or decipher this at this particular moment. I really got to sit down with this and we want to get technical with it. But, you know, they said the goat with a prominent horn between his eyes came out of the west, right? And he trampled upon the ram. Okay. So, yeah, we would have to revisit that. Are they talking astrology? Are they talking Capricorn versus Aries? Right? Hey, shout out to Daniel. Hosea 8:6. Israel will reap the whirlwind. He has rejected your call, O Samaria. My anger burns against them. How long will they be incapable of innocence? For this is from Israel. A craftsman made it, and it is not God. It will be broken to pieces. The calf of Samaria. For they sow the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. There is no standing grain. What sprouts falls to yield flour. Even if it should produce, the foreigners will swallow it up. So this is how he got his children in check. He starved them, right? He caused famine to their land when they were not showing him adulation, respect, praise, and things of that nature. When they were building idols, false gods, right? Such as this quote unquote calf of Samaria. You feel me? This is the way that he kept his children in check. He starved them, right? Parents, have you ever done that to your children when they haven't listened? Have you put them little niggas to sleep and haven't fed them? Now you know where you get it from. Amos 8:6, the basket of ripe fruit, right? When will the new moon be over that we may sell grain? When will the Sabbath end that we may market wheat? Let us reduce the ephah and increase the shekel. Let us cheat with dishonest scales. Let us buy the poor with silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, selling even the chaff with the wheat. The Lord has sworn by the pride of Jacob, I will never forget any of their deeds. They talking greasy. They talking about finessing, right? They're talking about committing all sorts of deceit, right? These were his children. Zechariah 8:6, the restoration of Jerusalem. And the streets of the city will be filled with boys and girls playing there. This is what the Lord of hosts says. If this is impossible in the eyes of the remnants of this people in these days, should it also be impossible in my eyes? Declared the Lord of hosts. This is what the Lord of hosts says. I will save my people from the land of the east and from the land of the west. Right? He really, really loved his children. He was really, really running plays for them, and they was really not fucking with him, right? Let's go to Matthew's 8:6, the faith of the centurion. When Jesus had entered um, Capernaum, a centurion came and pleaded with him, Lord, my servant lies at home, paralyzed and in terrible agony. I'll go and heal him, Jesus replied. So Jesus, right, was running plays for the Romans and they killed him. And Jesus was running plays for the Jews and they killed him. And Jesus was running plays to the Gentiles. So he got killed for that as well, right? Because he was off his rocker. They like, them is not the people that's supposed to be receiving the word. Remember, they were not admissible into the court of Christianity until Paul comes along in 44 AD and goes to Antioch and amongst the Gentiles and spreads the good news, right? But very well, he could have been killed because of that. Mark 8:6, the feeding of 4,000. How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. 7. They replied. And he instructed the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, gave thanks, and broke them, and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And they distributed them to the crowd. They also had a few small fish, and Jesus blessed them and ordered that these be set before them as well. So here go the 2 small fish and the loaves of bread, right? And he was able to feed the multitudes with these. Okay? That number 7 keeps popping up, right? 8:6, the parable of the sower, right? A farmer went out to sow his seed, and as he was sowing, some seed fell upon the path where it was trampled, and the birds of the air devoured it. Some fell on rocky ground, and when it came up, the seedlings withered because they had no moisture. Other seeds fell amongst thorns, which grew up with it and choked the seedlings. Okay? So they keep talking about sowing and seeds as well, right? The parable of the sower. I think that was an amazing book as well by Octavia Butler. Shout out to her. I recommend that you read that. John 8:6, the woman caught in adultery, right? This is the Hot Girl Summer edition. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. So what do you say? Right? I guess they're asking Jesus, right? Because the thing about Jesus is that he was a law bringer, and the 2 books are separated by law, right? Jesus came and he changed the law of Moses. The law of Moses was a few things. Once again, it was animal sacrifice. He changed that law. He changed the dietary law. Because if you're Christians and you're supposed to do as Christ did, he was an herbivore. So he didn't eat meat, unlike his predecessors, Moses and them. So he changed the dietary law, right? He changed the aspects of the judicial law. Feel me? But they asked him what he felt about adultery as law. They said this to test him in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. When they continued to question him, he straightened up and said to them, let who is without sin amongst you be the first to cast a stone at her. Okay? So this is that verse. All right? Let those who amongst you who is without sin be the first to cast the stone at her. And here we go in society. We are being very accusatory, very much chastising, right? Very much concerned with what she does and how she does it, right? Every day that she's doing it. Fellas, find you something else to do. You know what I'm saying? This is not you being irresponsible. Yes, we do have a duty to ourselves, and we also have a duty to her. You feel me? But damn, you gotta let her breathe, yo. You gotta let her breathe. You gotta let her be responsible for her actions, her ways and activities on this planet. or clean the thing up about you that needs to be cleaned so she can, rightfully quote unquote, and if we want to frame it that way, follow your lead. Acts 8:6, Philip in Samaria. Philip went down to a city in Samaria and proclaimed the Christ to them. The crowds gave their undivided attention to Philip's message and to the signs they saw him perform. With loud shrieks, unclean spirits came out of many who were possessed, and many of the paralyzed and the lame were healed. Right? So Philip was putting in that work, huh? Just with a word, Philip was putting in that work. Shout out to Red Pill. Romans 8:6, living in the spirit. Those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the spirit set their minds on the things of the spirit. The mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the spirit is life and peace, because the mind of the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. These are one of those scriptures, once again, that we take with us. Right? These is one of them scriptures that we hold near and dear to us, that we repeat. These should be one of those scriptures that become the creed in our family. Right? Those who live according to the flesh set their minds on things of the flesh, but those who live according to the spirit set their minds on things of the spirit. The mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the spirit is life and peace. Why? Because the mind of the flesh is hostile to God. Why? Because it does not submit to God's law. Why? Nor can it do so. Why? Because it's too busy submitting to the law of man. It's too busy attempting to be a good citizen and to fit into, the citizenry that has been built on corruption and criminality. But you want to fit into it rather than disrupt it and overturn the change. Exactly. Exactly. Can the church get an amen? Thank you. Look, man, I'll show you. Sun is out. No rain, no clouds. Look. Y'all can see it. The sun is out. It's beautiful. I don't know where the rumbling comes from, but it just came. So we're not going to question it. We're just going to let it ripple. We're going to take that as an amen. 1 Corinthians 8:6. Food sacrificed to idols. For even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven, look, man, look, the shit is bright, man. I mean, the sun even came out even more. It's real sunny. The sky is real clear. I have no idea where that shit came from. But I'm not going to ask and question it. We're just going to keep going. For even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as there are many so-called gods and lords, yet for us there is but one God, the Father, for whom all things came and from whom we exist. And there is but one Lord, Jesus Christ, whom all things come and through whom we exist. But not everyone has this knowledge. Some people are still so accustomed to idols that they eat such foods as if it were sacrificed to an idol. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. But, that was self-explanatory. Generosity commended. This is 2 Corinthians 8:6. And not only did they do as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord and then to us because it was the will of God. So we urge Titus to help complete your acts of grace just as he has started it. But just as you excel in everything, in faith and speech and knowledge, in complete earnestness and in love, we inspired in you. See that you also excel in the grace of giving. In the grace of giving, family. In the grace of giving, right? Excel in the grace of giving. You feel me? Find something worthy right, of your giving that you can give freely of and not expect anything in return. And you don't even got to publicize it on Instagram. Just give freely, right? Just participate in the grace of giving. You could be giving your time to somebody, and that's grace. You could give some coins to somebody, and that's grace. You could give a good word to somebody, and that's grace. You can give us your smile, and that's grace. You feel me? Heb, trying to pronounce this. Heb. Let's just say Heb 86. The new covenant, the place where they serve is a copy and a shadow of what is in heaven. This is why Moses was warned when he was about to build the tabernacle. See to it that you make everything according to the pattern shown to you on the mountain. Now, however, Jesus has received a much more excellent ministry, just as the covenant he mediates is better and is founded on better promises. For if that first covenant had been without fault, no place would have been sought for a second. What does this establish? Once again, this individual, right, called Jesus or Christ, came to undo and redo and modify what is considered to be Mosaic law. Now, you got to decipher what is Mosaic law. Is it the 10 Commandments, right? Or is it the instructions that they give to the children of Israel? Is it dietary? Is it the priesthood, right? But they said no need for the building of a second temple, if not for the defiling of the commandments from the first temple of the covenant, the breaking of that particular structure. And now they want to build a third temple. That is the whole thing right now about the Temple of the Mount and all of the political unrest taking place in Jerusalem on that side of the earth. You know what I'm saying? They're acting out that particular, play about the third temple and all that anyway. And then we find ourselves again right back in Revelations. If you tapped in late, we're going to reiterate Revelations 8:6 describes in detail an incident that took place today 79 years ago, which was the dropping of the bomb, the atom bomb called Little Boy, right, in Hiroshima, right, on 8/6. So we're going to end with this reading of Revelation, right? And bar none, we don't need nobody to explain to us or to interpret that we know what we're reading. The first 4 trumpets. And my estimation is that Trump will be indicted next week, right? Or definitely, I feel within the season of Leo, he's going to get his 4th indictment coming out of Georgia by the young lady whose name is Fannie Williams, I believe her name is. The first 4 trumpets. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to the earth. And there were peals of thunder and rumblings and flashes of lightning and an earthquake. And the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. Then the first angel sounded his trumpet, and hail and fire mixed with blood were hurled down upon the earth. A third of the earth was burnt up, along with a third of the trees and all of the green grass. So this is as we heard the thundering, right, and the rumblings of the thundering to end this particular session, we opened up with this passage to show and prove, you know what I'm saying, that these things coincide. You know what I'm saying? There is a continuum when it comes to the word in scripture when we put it in its proper context. And when we make these observations, and the fact we can find evidence that overlaps this Gregorian calendar day of April 6th, of August 6th, we can go right to Revelations and find the cross correlations. We can go to Genesis and see that in 8:6 Genesis is when Noah sent out the raven, which is a bird of death, right, to look for sound ground so the ark can dock itself. They had to send the dove out in order to find it because the raven could not find it. The raven only found chaos over the waters, right? And this is the situation that America found itself in, the U.S. found itself in the war, right? Attempting to bring Japan to its knees. So they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, which is Hiroshima, and Nagasaki, which is the home of the Nagas. Okay? Study Japan in its antiquity. Study the founders of Japan. Study the melanated history of that region. You feel me? But look, this sermon went into over a little bit over an hour. I don't want to hold you guys for too long. I value your time, your attention, you know what I'm saying, and your participation. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to our hosts. You know what I'm saying? I do wholeheartedly appreciate you. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna work my best not to have so many gaps of weeks in between these sermons, but hopefully today we made up for lost time. All right. And with that, I want to say peace, love, and light. And I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Our brother Angel, you got anything you need to leave with? Brother Angel. All right. I gotta tap out, y'all. All right. Peace to the family. All right, y'all. With that, I want to say thank you again. Peace, love, and light. All right. Travel safe. And yeah, value this time. You know what I'm saying? Get out here, get you some of this sunlight, get you some of this warmth. You feel me? And yeah, spread love, spread joy. Peace.